Foundation Course Kabbalah, Part 2, Lesson 47, Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. This is the last lesson of the basic course Kabbalah. Always take with you the Hebrew alphabet when you come to class and the numbers that go with them. Not memorize, but learning through use. Aramaic is part of the sacred language. Aramaic is the inner of the inner. Aramaic is also in terms of sentence structure. Qua structure, there is no aesthetic in it. It is not symbolic, but direct, clear, iconic. It is not a literary language. It is the language which reflects the most profound, intimate parts of the universe. Therefore, it is important to take also that in our lesson. It is extremely powerful, and therefore it is lost also in our generation. It is lost. Of course, no one speaks the language, but no one masters the language either. There are various Aramaic languages, but the Aramaic of the Zohar is the most powerful. There is also a translation of Onkelos, a great proselyte. He was canonized, and also his translation is canonized. Just as Torah, he explained it. He was a Roman, a high-standing person, a cousin of the Emperor of Rome, and he converted to Judaism. He wrote in Aramaic the translation of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, each book of the Torah in Hebrew. In the middle, you can find the translation of Onkelos. But what was different? But that was a different kind of Aramaic. The same, but a variation of Aramaic that we find in the Zohar, because also his Aramaic corresponded with the Torah, as the Torah was written by Moses. The commentary in the Zohar is from the great Yehuda Ashlag, Hasulam. The ladder, his commentary is called the ladder. That is not to know, but to elevate. First there was Ari, but he made no comment on the Zohar. This is the only comment that is useful for our generation until the eve of the arrival of the Messiah, the Mashiach, until our liberation. One can simplify, but with the dirty water is then flushed the child. It is not a question to know. It should not be your goal. Knowing must be only to help you. Otherwise, it is nothing. There are people who always want to know more because it gives a kick. It gives incentives, nutrition to his brains. If you want the spiritual, then go look. Is it necessary for me? Does it bring me to my goal? Yes or no? And not ever to know more. The Creator has given us his instruction with a simple message: taste and enjoy, nothing else. That we find it necessary in our world to be intellectual, status symbol, and other things, for this world it is okay, because it's all for this world. We learn for something else. If I tell you something, I do not know where it comes from, and it does not interest me. So you will experience that as well, and there is something alive that has no contact with the material. Of course, somewhere there is a connection, such as fire to a candle, but after our physical death remains eternal life. After the dissolution of our hull, all our intellectual attainments in this world, even if you are a Nobel Prize winner, goes with you to the grave. Physics, mathematics, etc., the effort to learn it, that will be included in the next generation. The result of your efforts that will be taken, the next generation. Not that something will be remembered from those dusty things, but the efforts made by the man will be in the following generations of that soul. A kind of a inheritance. It gets easier, but it's not that it lives. If your soul leaves the earth, all your earthly things you've done to earn a living go with you to the grave. But what you have experienced of the higher, that's your treasury for the next life. Also, religion hints on that, but that's only alluding. Lurianic Kabbalah, step by step, it will be carved with you. And do not know. Of course, you will know, but your attitude should be that you're composing like a wax of a candle to a mold. The light must, as it were, make dyes in you, and that you set yourself up like wax, and then you get life. In that wax, light will come in more and more. The Kabbalistic dictionary, we made it to put it on the site. Everyone at home can learn the Hebrew letters. Do not worry. The point is that your intention is correct, that you make yourself soft as wax, receptive, and everything will come naturally. Only the effort from within counts, the right attitude, not pedantry. Try to overcome pedantry, and that's difficult because so we were created. Knowing gives prestige, also from inside selfish. And without respect, what can we do? We are pathetic. Even my daughter said to me, "You used to be so worldly, and now you're in your attic. That's pathetic. Where do you keep yourself busy? What do you keep yourself busy with? Look at your hair and beard." She meant well, because a person who has only wishes of our world finds it pathetic. And that's true, because the man who has only wishes of our world and pursues them, he is dusty. What I mean is that a dusty man feels sorry for what a man does who works on his soul. In Dutch also, it is pathetic. The word for pathetic in Dutch is tijdelijk. Can be literally translated like solely. The original meaning is elevated. Someone working on his soul, working on his eternity at the expense of his substance. Another meaning, translation of the Dutch word for substance, stof, can be dust. Why has it been given a different meaning? Because from the dusty man came the secondary meaning of pathetic, because for the dusty man, the desire of the person who wants to be exalted, who wants to pursue his goal in life, and wants to deal with his life purpose, is pathetic. Therefore, we should not mind if someone finds it pathetic what we do. It would be nice if it really is pathetic, because it means that you are really working on yourself. It is a great compliment to you when people think you are pathetic. Last time I had something about the site, that I had made it, and of course I could never have done that without the help of others, like an American from Georgia and others who corrected. One way or another, I stopped to praise people that is good what they have done, because in our work, praising people is even out of the question. The other is likely to get worse rather than better from it, because your ego immediately grabs the opportunity to make you proud. Therefore, we must know that it is appreciated, but not with words. There was here in the course a student who paid the double donation, and at one point he became external student and continued to pay the double donation. At one point I wrote him, "Thank you for your generous donation," and guess what? He stopped immediately also with the learning. Yes, so delicately it works in humans. Yes, we absolutely appreciate it, but the man then gets reward from you, and he wants eternal reward. And then who am I to give you a reward? You think, "Oh, he thanked me, but I do not do it for him." We do not praise each other. We do not do it for humans. The attitude should be not to praise. I once gave a lecture, and then a woman came up to me. We greeted each other, and she put something in my hand, and it was money. In itself, that would be okay, but immediately afterwards she said, "Rabbi, may I sit down next to you?" Perhaps she did not mean it like that, but the coincidence of this, it was remarkable. We must be very careful, even if we do a course with one another. Be careful with doing services for each other. Do not give presents to each other. Encourage each other, but do not give gifts. Otherwise you oblige the other. In our world, you can do it, but even there, very carefully. If you learn the spiritual, then you should do so that you are doing something good, in such a way that even the Creator does not see it, so in a very modest way. So do not lift yourself up like, "Look what I'm doing for you." Just as you can embarrass your friend here, so you can do the same with the Creator. You need to praise the Creator, but also in that way that you do so inwardly. that he is distracted from his work to listen to you. Note that you do not do that, because that is false. And falsehood in our profession is dead. We must falsehood out of the way. We should get it out of the way. If someone comes here and puts a large sum on the table, then we should treat him just like all the others, even though we are very grateful. I see that when a human being is here longer, that he wants to give more. He does it for the Creator. There are people who give extra for the holidays. It is like you give to the Creator. King Solomon, when the whole world came to the temple to bring with the offers all kinds of gifts to the Creator, that they gave to the priests. And what we do is nothing different. We are now building the third temple, the temple that will last forever. We let in ourselves notch the attributes of the Creator by what we learn, and thus we obtain eternity and the agreement with the Creator, because the Creator wants nothing higher, stronger, more intense than that we resemble Him. And not to say that Adam was expelled from paradise because he wanted to be as Creator. As religion tells us, for it is ignorance. We will all learn in the Zohar itself. So much for praising. And she also told me that I used to take a drink because I do not like alcohol now. And recently I always ate a lot of meat. My whole life there did not pass 3 days without eating meat. And now, from one day to the next, I do not eat meat anymore. It is suddenly gone. There's no interest anymore. Is that not pathetic? Absolutely pathetic. So Kabbalah needs to help us. It is not about knowledge. It was already written in the Talmud that it must be a man who learns Zohar, and he must be over 40 years old and married. Otherwise you may not learn the Zohar. And it also says that he must learn the whole language by heart and must know the other Torah very well before he's ready to learn Zohar. Of course, there is something in it, but they do not understand. And there's another story that's been going on for 2,000 years, which is also in Talmud. Is somebody watching the time? That someone just gives us a signal when it is time for coffee, tea, lemonade. So we're talking about secrets, and so about our lives. So we have to do up and down, up and down. Another aspect is a famous true story from the Talmud about 4 great rabbis who went inside Pardes. Pardes is a Persian word for a garden where fruit trees grow, but Pardes also means that they went up to fathom the true reality, the Creator, the secrets of creation, the garden where all the secrets of the universe were contained. There those 4 great rabbis went inside, and only one of those 4 came in and has eaten from the fruit and everything. So all the apprehensions that were possible for man and came out unscathed, exalted. And the other 3 have sustained several damages. Of course, that's spiritual. Zohar told me that. And one of those 3 found his death there. And the other of those 3 was mad. He lost his mind. And the third of those 3 turned his back to the Torah. He became an atheist, godless. He rejected the Torah, and therefore reigned 2,000 years in this nation great fear of what was happening. And Pardes are the 4 initials of the 4 forms of apprehension and the 4 forms of the Torah. Before I tell you, I first tell something about the world absolute, because we will learn much of the world absolute from which all life flows to us. There are many variables, but I leave that for now. We have learned to draw these receipts of light as coatings from each other, the fountain principle, one above and then underneath a block, as we have learned in Akka, Adam Kadmon. Galgalta was higher, and then around it, just as the principle of the table lamps, one lamp and then comes another one. It's more convenient to set lines and no blocks. Please refer to the drawing 47 as it was made in the written material. If we look at Absolute, it is so composed, Keter, Chochma, and then there is a kind of closure, and then Bina, and then a place which is called Chazeh, chest. We will soon see what it all means, and that's Partzuf Arichan Pin of Atzilut. So as it were one Partzuf, one unit of which all other coarsenings of Partzufim depend. Chazeh is half of a Partzuf, and below we have Tabur, the navel. What it is all that we will learn quickly. We have to deal in the higher spheres with the names of the human body, and below we have to deal with Zeir Anpin and Malchut, and below that with Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah in our world in terms of fields of force. We know that everything is made of 10, also Binah. The top 3 Sferot of Binah are called Gar, Gimel, Rishemot, the first 3, and then there are the 7 lower of Binah. Instead of one block around another block, we will draw it into a line next to it, but it does mean that he embraces the other. The top ones are called Abba Ve'ima, and the bottom is called and the bottom is called Jisoet. We will learn something very special, which will arrive at the beginning of the Zohar. How it is to elevate us to receive light. These are 3 are important to us. Tiferet and Zair Anpin and Malchut. So we have the following. It always has to do with the interaction between these 3 to make correction at any level. Draw it for yourself that you already have it. I'm not going to tell you now because Zohar will tell us, in which we obtain feeling, all in good time and dosed and according to powers. I cannot tell it apart from myself. It has to do with the secret that we 2,000 years still have not deciphered, and also fear to learn Kabbalah. Still, just as the Middle Ages, it is also in our time the same attitude, only one cannot banish the Kabbalist, one excommunicates him no more. But the attitude inside has remained exactly the same. The hatred exists for a Kabbalist, and that is necessary, even for people who feel that way. It is out of good intention to preserve the people, and not as we do, that we are engaged in personal spiritual development. The desire to see eye to eye the Creator, and not to tell a story of so-and-so, all kinds of beautiful machinations, but where something is taken away from my life, is that not a shame? That is absolutely a shame, and that is why I want this secret a little bit with the fingers to indicate here. What does Pardes mean? The garden, the orchard called Pardes. In Hebrew and Aramaic always count the consonants because they are the carriers of the information. Of course, the vowels are also important, but the structural forces of the universe are in the consonants. Question: is also paradise from there? Yes, paradise is also from the court of Eden, a sort of garden with trees, etc. So what is that Pardes? That garden, what was it about? Because that is exactly the same as the Garden of Eden, only spiritual, so not the place where it had been. Besides, it is to say with almost 100% certainty which was the site of Pardes, but what will it bring us? Hebron is the place where the cave, the burial place, is of the patriarchs, of the Jewish people, and the whole world. There are also buried Adam and Chava. If you're there and just look around you and look at the cascade of the mountains, the whole entourage, then it scares you. It's great if you know to look. I do not know if you're allowed to enter. There are Palestinians. I was there once, and as a wonder they have allowed us in with a patrol car. Once was enough. Adam and Chava are buried there, and Abraham and Sarah are buried there, and Yitzhak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. Let's use the Hebrew names because the power is in those names. And we learn the Torah of Atzilut, which are all names of the Creator. Rivka, Sarah, Abraham. We should not think of them as persons. Of course they were as a human being. Rachel is not buried there. She was buried somewhere along the way. We'll all learn on the basis of the spiritual forces why even in reality it happened so. Why could they, Rachel, later, why until now, after so many years, a few thousand years, if she, Rachel, the second wife of Yaakov, was buried on the way, why should they now not? Surely it's easy now to now bury her there in Hebron, if it was left to the people. No, they do not do that. She is now buried where Palestinians live, and yet they do not get what is left of her body to convey to the tomb in Hebron, because everything is interwoven into the building of the Creator. That's how it must be. And we will all learn in Kabbalah. I never understood that, why that was so. Why? Why in the Six-Day War in 1967 that the army had taken Jerusalem, they came to the Western Wall, but not over the Western Wall? A small action would be enough to go over the wall, because there is the place of the altar. And the Arabs have not fought for that. The Israeli army could take it, but they have not done so. They were all socialists or communists or Zionists. I mean, they were not religious. Why have they not done so? Everything is in the Kabbalah, in our scheme of Absolute. We will all experience why that happens so, and not a political decision. They had to execute it. Please refer to drawing 47. The global structure of the world refers to what was briefly mentioned in the first part of the lesson. The secret, the four and the pardes, remain standing as drawing without explanation until it will be discussed at an appropriate time. Please review this drawing carefully. And thank you for listening. This completes the Lessons Foundation course, Kabbalah, Part 2.